The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Everybody has their own story and their own journey to share. Every journey conceals another journey within its lines, the path not taken and the forgotten angle. Listen to the stories from others sharing their triumphs and struggles that led them to where they are today. Welcome to the journey within you. I have the privilege of welcoming Heather today with us. She is a communication expert. She loves to talk around our words and what they do and how they impact our lives because it's valuable and how we speak to one another. And I think she has a heart for children and how they are speaking and not speaking, right? They're not speaking now. So we're going to dive into some of that in just a bit. But I want Heather, I want welcome first to here, being with me. And I would love for you to share with us about your journey and how it's led you to where you are today.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate you taking the time to do these shows because they matter. And I believe that everybody's voice out there in the world means something. And my whole philosophy is one conversation can change a life.
Everything.
Exactly. So I really appreciate being here and this platform. You know, my journey and conversations, I didn't even realize that's where I would end up, when I was very young. I grew up in the South and back in the 70s. So I would be considered, I guess, Generation X.
Whatever.
I guess I'm that person.
Yeah.
But we were raised in the South, and in the 70s, there were not a lot of overweight kids. There just wasn't. It just wasn't a thing. And especially in the South, you were either a cheerleader or a football player, nothing in between. And so consequently, I ended up being bullied very severely for most of my childhood. And all the way up until, high school and even in adulthood. It just doesn't stop, right? And I'm not talking about the bullying that we disagree with each other, or that we're upset with each other, or we don't like each other. This was full on torture every single day from the minute I got on the school bus throughout school to the minute I got off the school bus. What I will say is the kids, I think nowadays have it a little bit more challenging, a lot more challenging, because that bullying never ends because of social media and internet and all that stuff. So mine ended at 3:30, But with that being said, it really taught me words have power and words mean things to people. And over time, I really just took it in, and that I was nothing, that I didn't matter. And one day I came home from school and my mom noticed that I was kind of despondent, and she said, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And I go in my bedroom. She comes in and I end up confessing to her that this kid in particular had been bullying me for a very long time. And, he said I didn't matter, that I was stupid, that I was ugly, that I was fat, all the things. And she said to me, she said, "Well, he's wrong." And I looked at her and I'm like, "Whatever, Mom." And she said, "He's wrong because my mom, she had had cervical cancer and she had to have part of her cervix removed. So she wasn't supposed to be able to have children. And even if she did, technically they would just fall out because the cervix wasn't there to protect." So my mom and dad decided to be truck drivers and, go across the country. She fell ill and she didn't know what was happening. Well, come to find out, she was pregnant with me.
Oh my gosh.
And they said, "Don't worry, don't worry. You won't carry this baby."
I know what those words are. Yeah.
And they said, "It's just not possible. You're going to lose the baby." And she said, "Okay." Then 2 weeks late, 10 pounds, 4 ounces later, here comes Heather onto this planet.
No way.
So,
oh my gosh.
She said, she was very clear with me that, and they tried to have babies after me and couldn't have any. And she said, "You were a miracle. You were here. You were born on purpose. You matter."
Oh,
And
wow.
he's
How
wrong.
powerful.
Wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you he's wrong. Factually, he's wrong. So that conversation changed everything for me. And so every time the bullying didn't stop, nobody could fix the bullying, nobody could stop the bullying until we empower our children on both ends. None of it will stop. All of the jumping in and, mitigating between them and
Yeah,
all
it
of
does.
the hotlines, that's not going to fix it. It's not, because we're not teaching them the skill set to have a conversation. So time went on and he still kept going. But what I will say is that every time he said it, there was a track in my head that said, he's wrong. He's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
He's
your mother
wrong.
had empowered you with words
Yes. And
and
so
truth.
it never changed over time. And, and even fast forward 40 years later, I stalk him on Facebook through some old friends of friends of
You
friends,
did
right?
not.
Tell me why he
I don't.
married an overweight blonde girl.
Yeah, I wonder. It was
Wonder.
all about him when he was doing that all to you.
Yes. And he
Yeah.
liked me. He just
Yeah.
didn't have the words to say and he didn't want to say, but he liked me,
Yeah.
And so there, as I look at it backwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have eliminated all of that pain and suffering. But what I will tell you is that pain and suffering drove me to who I am today.
Yeah.
And so after that, I ended up working with a lot of children. Back in the day, I live in Las Vegas. They were trying to make Las Vegas a family destination. It
Right.
is not.
It's
It is
not.
not.
It's not.
And but I worked at MGM. I opened the MGM Grand, and they had like a theme park in there, and they would have all these kids from all over different countries come and drop them in this youth center. And we had over 35,000 kids on my shift alone come
Oh
through.
my gosh.
And so these poor kids from Japan, from Australia, all over the world would be just dropped
Like,
in
what are
this,
we doing?
and
Yeah.
they didn't speak English, or
Mm.
whatever. So it was quite the journey. But I got the opportunity again, one more conversation. My dad came to me and he said, "Hey, I found this preschool for sale. Do you want to go look at it?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Why would I do?
Because I've always dreamed to have a school. But, when you're a teenager, I was going through child development classes and, doing a mock preschool. It
Yeah,
was all fantasy. It wasn't reality.
because you were in that moment.
Yes. And so he comes to me and he says, "Hey, let's go check it out." So we go and look at it, and it's a dump. It was just a dump. And he said, "Can you do something with this?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely." Of course, I was 21, I was
I
going to
can do
college.
anything.
I can do anything. I'm
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so ended up opening the school under my name, and for nearly a decade owned that school.
Mm,
Got super tired
a lot of
because
work.
running a preschool 0 to 6 years old, and on the summers it was their siblings that were 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of work. And
Yeah.
then I ended up opening a wellness center because I just wanted to be quiet, and I was a massage therapist in that space. But I owned the center, and we did all sorts of Japanese acupuncture and all sorts of alternative healing to
Mm-hmm.
therapies to any kind of illness that you had. So did that for a few years, and then went online and started doing the online thing with creating games for families to connect, for children
Mm-hmm.
to connect. Because what I will tell you is our children are our super communicators on this planet. They don't care. And I'm talking young kids. I'm not talking, you know, 7, 8 tweens, teens. I'm not
Yeah,
talking that realm. I'm talking young, where they walk in and they say, "I'm so beautiful."
yeah.
And they know, they own it. They
They
know
own it.
it.
Yeah,
Or if you say, "God, you look so beautiful today," they go, "I
I
know,
know.
I know."
Yeah, it's so cute.
We know it. We are authentic in our speech. We are authentic. They tell you no when no means no to them. They
Mm-hmm.
tell you, "I don't know." There's no filter. And so I think that they taught me these super communication skills that now apply as an adult. And what we want to
Yeah.
do is finesse those skills, not delete them.
Right.
You know,
Right.
we want to hone them. We want to nurture them, not delete them.
Right.
So, so as I've gone on in time, I did some nanny 911 stuff where I'd go into families and help them. I actually was approached by a media to relaunch Nanny 911, or what was it?
Nanny something. I
Super
remember
Nanny.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Super Nanny.
Yeah.
But you know, so that's always been my realm. And what I've realized is throughout that, I've done a lot of business consulting. I've gone in and consulted for businesses that need communication skills, that also
Mm.
need actual organizational help, small businesses in
Mm-hmm.
particular. But what I've realized across all of these boards, and in between there, I authored a couple of books.
Yes. Yes. Somewhere
Um,
along the line there.
you throw that in there. But what I've learned across the way is the common thread through all of these things is conversations.
Yeah.
One conversation changed the trajectory of my life with my mom, with the preschool, with the wellness center, with writing a book. I had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation with a dear friend of mine. She wasn't my friend at the time. We were just acquaintances, but she owned the Everyday Genius Institute, and she would take people and what they do best and kind of dissect it to give
Oh,
it,
wow.
you know, the easy
To the
button
meat
for
of it.
people.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the meat of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so she's like, she was asking me for her sisters about their kids. What would you do with this? What would you say about that? And she's like, this is genius. And I'm like, it's not genius. This is common sense.
Yeah.
And she's
But
like,
not too many. Not too many.
not too many.
Yeah.
So that's who I ended up authoring the book with, Taryn
Oh,
Boget.
cool.
And it's Raise a Happy Child and Be Happy Too, with the emphasis on being happy too, because we all have this space that we need to serve ourselves in this space, and not
Mm.
as a selfish, but as a sense of clarity. You
Yeah.
know, when I wake up in the morning and I do a prayer or a meditation or a silent time for myself, that's for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so that I'm a better mom, so I'm a better wife, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
a better business person, so I'm a better
Mm-hmm.
interviewer, you know?
Right. Right.
Like
Being
that's,
grounded in alignment.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
grounded and aligned and ready to go. And that's not selfish. And
Mm-mm.
so I think that with conversations, my whole premise is before you have a conversation with anybody, you need to have a conversation with yourself first,
Mm, that's good.
always, because that will send the messages that we want to send to the people that we're having a conversation with. We say often, like, we need to be active listeners, we need to be active listeners,
Yeah.
but what we forget is we can't be a listener to anybody until we listen to ourselves first.
Mm,
We
that's
cannot
powerful.
listen to
Bec-
anybody.
right. Because there's some things you may not need to be listening to, right?
Well,
You're
and I could say
so
all day
willing to
long,
listen to all these
yes.
people, and maybe you shouldn't be listening to all these people,
And
you
you
know?
could say all day long, "Oh, Heather, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. You're amazing. You're great." And I'm like, that's not the
Mm,
conversation I have. So your
yeah.
conversation means nothing to me. It's
Right.
nice.
Right.
It's pleasant. But at the end of the day, it doesn't serve me until I can say, you know what? I'm a beautiful human being. I'm here on purpose. I matter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
important. Now, when you offer me, you're so beautiful, I go, thank you. And I can
Yeah.
receive
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking about when I was growing up or something, and people telling you when someone compliments you on your outfit or something, don't automatically try to start saying something about it. Just say thank you, and receive it. Like your beautiful smile. I get told
Mhm.
that a lot. Your smile just is all about you. And I'm like, you always try to think of ways to go out of it. Because I was called buck teeth all my life. That was, and four eyes because I wore glasses early on. And so you hear those things right away when somebody says something about you. But I've always smiled. I haven't covered them up. It's just who I am. But it's
Yes.
you do try hard to not be open to receive. But if you don't feel it inside, you don't.
We cannot receive if we cannot receive from ourselves first. Like,
Mm.
because again, you're trying to convince me of something that I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so that's why it's so hard for us in those moments to receive, because we don't believe it ourselves. We're like, it's not even about modesty or
No,
humility.
no, it's
It's
just a
like,
it's a feeling inside that like you said, have carried through childhood or whatever, and you've like, oh no, I don't feel that. Where are you getting
yeah, when
that?
you have, you know, 100,000 people tell you you're fat, which is the
Mm-hmm.
perception, right? It's not a
Mm-hmm.
100,000, but when
Yeah,
you
I know.
have
That's
that,
what it feels like.
but that's what it feels like. It's this constant, even when I lost a ton of weight and
You
I was
still
down
feel
to like a
fat.
size 8, I would go, yeah, a size 6 would be better. A size 4
Yeah,
would be better.
yeah,
Now, mind you, I'm
yeah.
almost 6 foot.
So
Like,
you don't need to be that. No.
you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
but it's
So
the
there was
perception. Yeah.
some sort of problem up here until
Mm-hmm.
I could rationalize where I go, oh, okay. And just really genuinely own that for myself. But
Mm-hmm.
those conversations we need to be having every single day. We need to be reminding ourselves of our greatness. And then when we see our greatness, we can automatically see the greatness in each
And
other.
others. Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about that too when you were saying that. It's just how big the doors can open when you start allowing all that in, and the community and the relationships and the words that'll be spoken because you now are receptive and of yourself.
Yes.
And I know that's through my faith. I know that because of him, I am, and he created me. So why would I want to do disservice to him and believe in anything else about myself, in a
And
negative way?
I think that that's the journey that we're all on in some capacity. When you're in your own space, like I only thought fat people got made fun of. That
Yeah. That
literally,
was because that was where that bubble you were
that was
in.
my
Yeah.
bubble. But,
Yeah.
I met my husband and he's bright red hair. And I
I
called him,
cannot,
oh, oh yeah, bright red.
really.
Total
Oh my
Irish guy,
gosh.
like green
Yeah.
eyes, red
Yeah.
hair. And I called him one time, I'm all, oh, pumpkin head, like
Yeah.
joking,
Yeah.
like endearing,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like baby, love,
Yeah. Just
and
one of
he's like,
those
why
words.
would you say that?
Oh
And I was
no.
like, uh, it was endearing. And he goes, that's
Yeah.
not endearing. And he's like, I've been made fun of for my hair. I've been made fun of for my acne. I've been made fun of for my glasses.
So it triggered a point with him. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I was really so unaware that other people were made fun of, because my whole world was just dodging people making fun of me, like just
Mm-hmm.
dodging it, and
Mm-hmm.
even into adulthood. And what I
Yeah.
will tell you is my businesses gave me the opportunity to work through that, because
Mm.
when you're standing in front of somebody in business and they owe you a lot of money for their child, you don't really care what they think of you.
No.
I need you to pay me.
Yes. Yeah. And you can call me whatever when you leave this place, but
You
for
can say
now,
whatever
yeah,
you want,
exactly.
like, doesn't
Oh
bother
my
me.
gosh.
Just pay me.
Yeah. Yeah. So now in the field of what is your whole thing now that you've kind of self-employed? Because I know how we talked about that. Once you start self-employment, you don't want to go back out in the field and working. It's so fun to be able to have your own businesses and doing your thing. And so tell us now, what is it your main focus is now?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been self-employed since I was 21, and I'm 50 now. So it's been a long time. And with that being said, I did try and go back when I went through massage therapy school. I was like, oh, I'm just going to be a massage therapist and not have the struggle of a business and not
Yeah.
worry about it. And,
Yeah.
all the things.
Maybe easier.
Yes. And then I got into it and I was like, wait, you're paying me $14 and you're making 60 off of me?
And you're telling me what time I have to be here and when I have to be here?
Yes.
Oh, no.
So I learned very quickly. I was like, yeah, that's not the life for me. But what I have from now, and now that I am kind of, it's a really challenging space to be like, well, I've owned a preschool, I've owned a wellness center.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's all so different, wrote books and speak on different things. And so what I've really done is hone it in and called this business the Conversation Academy. And it's a
Mhm.
space where we create spaces for people to have conversations. Now, the one project I'm working on in particular is it's called the Conversation Station, and it's a space for kids in the classroom.
Do you have
And
that with you
so,
where you can show it?
oh, I actually do. Let me go off camera for a
I think
sec.
it's the coolest. Yeah, I love it though. You showed it to me, and I think it's the coolest piece ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
Um,
do. I just love it because, like we talked about, children don't know how to communicate anymore because of why these
well,
things.
exactly. Exactly. And
And
that's
parents, I
where,
mean, a lot of times, and I'm not downing all parents, but they lose that conversation because they're so busy or they're in the phone. So nobody's talking.
well, and we have come to a space and time also where we don't have time away from technology, where we
Mhm.
don't have time away from this. It's in our pocket every single minute of every single day. So somebody can get a hold of me, and I purposely don't answer my texts right away. I purposely don't answer my emails right away because I don't want to be in that space where I'm tied to this personally. With that being
Mhm.
said, my son also watches me on my phone a lot because that's where most of
Yeah.
my business is
Your
done.
business is, yeah. I have to tell
So
you, I'll have to
it's,
put a sidebar in here. Last night, we decided to build a fire because some reason this week, everything, the temperatures went down. I said, it would be a nice night for a fire. No cell phones for 2 hours. I was like in heaven, both of us,
beauty.
just sitting there being together and not having to think about a phone was amazing.
Well, I remember as a kid, we sat down at the dinner table and,
You didn't have cell phones at the dinner table.
we
Mm-mm.
didn't even have, I mean, we
Well, we
didn't have
didn't have
cell
them.
phones,
Yeah, we didn't have
like
them.
we had
Right.
a landline that had
Yeah.
a answering machine and we were high tech,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, and, I was also, again, raised in the South. You don't talk to people after 8 o'clock PM. You don't
Yeah.
call people before 10 o'clock AM. Like,
Yeah.
there were specific rules that we had to
Respectful
follow.
times. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is
This is
a
so cool.
conversation station. It ends up in the classroom. It goes on the wall. The teachers are trained in this space. So I take a day to train with the teachers and administration, and I take a day to train in the classroom. And what they do is they have 3 steps. The first step is that they put this heart to their heart and they take 10 deep breaths. And what we're doing is just regulating. We're just self-regulating. We're getting back into the space of self,
Mm.
and the energy of our love and our light and that presence, that is calming for
Yeah.
everybody.
Just calming. Yeah.
And then they pull a card, and the cards are specific. They're that's interesting. I always pull a different one every time
I
too.
bet you do.
They're A through Z. And they're uppercase and lowercase. The uppercase are the easier ones. The lowercase are the little bit more challenging words. But this one in
Mm.
particular is very interesting. It's hate.
Hate.
And
Wow.
so we talk about, so we ask the question, have you ever felt hate before? And then we
Mm.
talk about the ideas in our head of what is hate?
What is
Can
hate?
we dislike somebody without hating them? Can
Yeah.
we have an opinion without having to hate somebody?
Hate. Yeah.
You know, and so then we go through share an experience where you had some feelings of hate, or
Mm.
that somebody expressed hate to you. What did you do with that? What do
Mhm.
you do with that? So we're really just teaching these words, very similar to the book you introduced me to with
Yeah.
Focus.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but we're teaching these words to kids so that they have the vocabulary to associate what the feeling that they're having. Because listen, we've all felt hate before. Hate
Oh,
is
yeah.
not a
You're
bad
human.
thing.
You're
We're
going to
human.
feel it. Yes.
We're going to
It's
feel
how you
it.
react to it. It's what you do with it once you
Yes.
feel it. Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
need to give those skill sets in order to give them other things to do. So then after they pull the card, then they ask the 3 questions. What am I wanting? Put the brain up to your brain. What am I wanting? I'm wanting to have a good time with you. So imagine 2 kids that are fighting. I want to have a good time with you. I'm wanting to have a good time with you. Then your heart to your heart. What's the energy I'm bringing to it? Well, I'm kind of mad at you, but now that you've explained how you felt, I understand and I feel
Mm-hmm.
better now.
Mm.
And then the star, how do we let our light shine on this planet? How are we going to shine together? Hey, let's go out and let's go on the playground and let's just go have a good time. You want to do the monkey
Yeah.
bars?
Yeah. And then they're gone. Yeah.
and they're gone.
And that's how quick kids are if you keep them in that pattern of thinking through the process. Now, what age group is that looking at?
So we're beta testing right now. The sweet spot is second grade, first grade, second grade, third grade are sweet spots. However, I have tested it out, the actual word part with high schoolers, and crazy enough,
Wow. I
they
bet that's
loved
been
it.
impactful. Yes. I could see that because again, these kids have missed that in that whole generation step of knowing how to express themselves and the feelings, how to deal with their feelings, and especially high school. They're struggling big time. Ah,
Well,
that's so
and one of
good.
the girls, she picked the letter I for ignored, and the girls
Mm.
that were with her in her group said, "Well, why would you feel ignored?" And she goes, "Well, you guys ignore me every day at lunch." And they're like, "You go outside by yourself." And she says, "Because you ignore me." And they're like, "We
Oh,
ignore you because you
wow.
go outside by yourself. Like, we of course want you there." So it was
There was a missed
basically
gap of communication again. Yeah.
miscommunication.
Yeah.
So it healed that space instantly. And that's what I'm wanting these kids to have, because especially coming off of COVID, whether we agree or disagree about
Oh,
any
that doesn't
points of
matter.
COVID,
Yeah.
the bottom line is our kids were raised in for years like this.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't see anything,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't hear anything, they didn't have conversations, they didn't see strangers having conversations in the grocery store. They
Mm-mm.
they didn't see anything. And so we are trying really hard to help this generation also, that we're seeing now, that we're raised on iPads and phones, and a lot of times, against the quote unquote rules we were all told, don't put your kids in front of screens. But
Yeah.
during COVID, we're going to put them
What
through
else?
10 to 12 hours of screens a day.
Screaming. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think that we have to be aware of these moments and give our kids the skill set, the tools to help support them. Because if
Mm-hmm.
they can master this in first, second, third grade, imagine the super
What an impact
communicators.
that's going to make middle school a hard time. I mean, I think
High
school's hard,
school,
period. But it's
yeah.
just like, yeah, and let that carry on because it's going to remember. They're going to, wait, I remember that word and how I'm supposed to feel and how I want to feel with that. I just love this idea. How are the schools being, how are they being receptive of it?
So the schools are skeptical because,
Yeah.
again, teachers are like, we don't want one more thing to do. And I
Yeah.
understand that
You get that.
100%.
Yeah.
What I do tell teachers is, you're going to invest on the front end or you're going to pay on the back end.
Big time.
You're going to invest in taking a little bit of time to create this space, because once you have the container for it, the kids will naturally learn what to do with it, right? So
Mm.
the idea is that you would eventually in the classroom be able to say, "Hey, you guys are having a hard time, go to the conversation station."
Yeah.
Or, "Oh, you're struggling right now, you alone, go to the conversation station, have a conversation with yourself, go
Yeah.
figure it out." We're empowering our kids to stand
Mm-hmm.
up for
Mm-hmm.
themselves, to show up for themselves and each other. And so
Yeah.
there is a little bit of that, but what I will tell you is the teachers now seeing how it's playing out, the kids are receptive, the kids are excited. There was one kid that he was calling this other girl ugly names, and
Mm.
lo and behold, thanks to my good old experience, he liked her. And it came out in the conversation. He's like, "Well, I really do like you." And she's like, "Then why are you calling me ugly names?"
Mm-hmm.
So they had the conversation that I wish that I could have had 40 years ago.
Back then. Yeah. Yeah. What
And
an
so
impact.
they're all experiencing this. And a couple of the kids came in early to do the conversation station, early from school, because they wanted to do the conversation station. They went home and told their parents about it. Now,
Mm.
if they go home and tell their parents about it,
It's
means
impacting them.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because kids don't tell their parents about much about school.
No, you have to beg them. Please, what was your day like? Oh, it's good. That's all you
Exactly.
get. That's
So
it.
I
Done deal.
feel I feel like it has a lot of
A
power. I
potential.
just have to help the teachers. And again, going back to, it's not just the teachers, this is also the administration.
Right. Right.
Because when
Have you
we
been
can
able
have,
to hold like a group session with all of them? Like
yes.
going, yeah, yeah,
So we'll do like the administration and
yeah.
teachers, we do like a training for them, because I am a firm believer. My son went to a school and they were all about kindness, and it was beautiful. Kindness, kindness, kindness,
Hmm.
kindness. They did kindness shout outs on the overhead
Yeah.
announcements, like so and
Yeah.
so, Johnny opened the door, you know. And what I will tell you is that we pulled my son from that school from a very bad situation, um, tragic situation, quite frankly. And it was the furthest from kindness that we've ever experienced in all of our lives, truly.
Mm. Mm.
And I had this moment with the principal, and she goes, "We're all about kindness." And I said, "Wait a minute, let me explain something. Acts of kindness is not the same as the culture of kindness.
Mm.
A culture of kindness is very different than acts of kindness.
Hmm.
I can be kind and open the door, but if I'm not kind in my heart, if I am saying ugly
Exactly.
things and hurting people and changing their lives because of the actions that I have done to
Hmm.
harm them, that is not kindness. That is
No.
not a culture of kindness. Your acts of kindness in my world mean nothing if there's no
Mm.
culture.
That, yeah, amen. Ooh, to that. That's truth. I mean, that's in any arena, like at work, even, the workspace, like you saying, and the communications that falter there. And, they have all these high fives and all that going on in workspace when there's so much going on underneath, and they just keep high fiving and covering it up like we're great. And
Mhm.
it's like if they would just step back and take time to learn to communicate and deal with the feelings that are there, what a change would be for that whole workspace, you
I've
know?
seen it happen. I've seen it
Mm-hmm.
happen at a company I just consulted with a couple of years ago. The whole dynamic of the company shifted,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was amazing. And they said, we haven't felt loved like this. And I would
Yeah.
thought that was very interesting, like
Yeah.
as a company,
Yeah.
because it was easy for me because I didn't have a vested interest in the company. I was brought in as
Right.
a consultant.
Right.
So,
So you didn't know anything except
y-
what you were coming there to help do. Yeah.
yep. And I didn't also bring a lot of baggage as an owner,
Yeah.
because I've done some things in my own businesses that I am not proud of at all.
Right.
Like,
Right. Right.
and I call it part of the learning process.
Mm-hmm.
But with
Mm-hmm.
that being said, when I was able to kind of be an observer and see how these skills and tools could change people,
Mm.
it was powerful. If
Powerful.
we can get our kids on board for that, we're going to be raising generations of children that become adults that can have conversations about politics,
Mm-hmm.
race, religion, sexuality.
Without all the hate and anger, and just because you discuss it or talk about it doesn't mean you have to believe it,
That's
you
true.
know
That's
and
true.
you can listen to the people and let them have their opinions and whatever. I actually got in a little conversation today. I'm so excited about new restaurants coming to our area and different things happening. And it just blows my mind at the negativity people want to throw under the comments, and I'm like, why? This is your community. And I mean, you don't have to go there if you don't like it, but it's nice to have the options here. And I think it's awful that another business would say the things they just said. And under this, you should be supporting that new business because they're working hard to come here for us. And if
Well,
you
it
don't,
goes back to the receiving, right? If they
right,
are not clear in their own business and they are
right.
not feeling successful in their own business and they're not proud of their own business, they can't possibly be proud or successful for somebody else and know that there is abundance for everybody.
Everybody, I mean, because they're not from here that own it, they don't think they're going to support our community. I thought, where do you come up with something like that? That's just to me, you're I just don't like that kind of talk. I think everybody has a fair share here. And again, support who you believe. Like, I love Crumble Cookie, but do I go there every week to buy a cookie? No, they're expensive, but they're an amazing company. And
Mhm.
so why can't I support them every once in a while? Why can't I go sit down at a McDonald's and eat every once in a while? Do I love it? No. But I support I mean, I support the community in areas that I think, wow, I'm glad they're here working for us. They want to
Yeah.
be a part of our community. Thanks for coming. If we could just change our thoughts and conversations, Everything might run a little smoother. Why do you got to wear the hate on your shoulders all the time?
Well, isn't that
Just,
funny? We pulled hate.
yeah.
Isn't and
Yes.
that's what's so beautiful about these cards. It's the craziest thing. Like every time you'll pull the right one for you. And that's so funny because
Yeah.
you had hate in the energy
Mm-hmm.
field of like, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And so a lot of people will pull it and they'll say, well, I don't hate, or they take it personally, but the energy
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
hate
They're not. That's because you got to teach them about that. Yeah.
the energy
And
of
what it
hate was in this
means.
conversation because you had read that,
Yeah.
you were feeling it. Like, why are they hating? It doesn't mean that you hate, it doesn't mean that you're
Yeah.
hating in that moment, but you felt the energy of hate. And what do we
Yeah.
do with that energy? Because you could very well go on and start typing away too.
Slandering away. Yeah. And I did. And that's what I said. I didn't want to come across like I'm wanting to start an argument. I just wanted to share my feelings of like, we are a community. Let's support each other, not tear each other down.
Well, and that's one of my strategies with conversations is anytime I go into any conversation, I am going into a space where it is not arguable. And
Right.
it's a skill set that
Yeah, that is.
honestly, I don't know where, other than experience and with kids and, all the different ways of hearing and listening to
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even my wellness center, there is an energy field that's with us and we can feel it. You can feel when somebody walks in the room, whether they're angry or sad or
Mm-hmm.
happy or
Mm-hmm.
mad, we
Mm-hmm.
bring that energy with us. And so, it's years of listening over and over in different ways. But I will tell you, the one thing is that when you're clear, and my friend says to me, she goes, what's interesting? She said, and again, she's the one that does the genius. So she's always
Yeah.
kind of dissecting
Yeah.
me. And which I love because
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to
cool.
figure it out.
I
you
love that
know?
too.
But she says, when you go into a hard conversation or a conflict conversation, it's a declaration. You're not actually having a conversation. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And she said, because you're not arguing, like you're so clear on what you're wanting and that it's within your control, right? Like, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't say to you, well, I want you to be nice to those restaurant people. That's out
Mm-hmm.
of my control. I have no power over
No
you,
control over that.
zero power. But what I can say is, listen, I support the people in our community, and want I want you to know that I believe in our community, and I believe in new people coming in here, and that there is plenty for all. And I'm so
Mm.
grateful that we're here.
Yeah.
And I'm so
Yeah,
grateful that we can see that in each other. It's
definitely.
not arguable.
Right. Right.
You're gonna argue that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, I mean, why would you do that? Then you don't want to be here or you're just a miserable soul, is what I say. I said, you must be so miserable that that's all you can do is just cut down something every time it comes in the town. That's your game. Here I go. It got some attention. I
And I
think
think
it's what
that
it
those
does.
people are the ones that are completely just out of touch with themselves. Like,
Right.
because when you have, whether you're faith based in whatever faith based your faith in, there is a connection, call it source, energy, God, light, love, whatever is in your realm, there is that connection. And when you are wholly connected in that space in your heart, it is hard to harm somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
hard.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, these devices have made it easier for us to harm
Oh,
each other,
big time.
because when you have to look at somebody in the face and
Mm-hmm.
spew hate,
Mm-hmm.
it's very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Very
But over a
challenging.
keyboard, they have no issues. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's changed the world for sure. And I love the fact that you are honing in on our children and working hard to try to change that journey so that they can start empowering others and each other as they go into their adulthood and
Because then we
change it,
have,
because that's what our generation's coming in. They're going to be running our banks and our
yes,
hospitals and all these things. And if they can't communicate, what is it going to be like for them?
that's just
So,
it. These are people that are going to be taking care of us. Like,
mm-hmm,
they're the ones that are going to be running the politics and
mm-hmm,
the healthcare
mm-hmm,
and, all the money, all of it.
mm-hmm.
We need to be able to communicate
Empower these
clearly.
kids. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and
Definitely.
authentically.
This has been fun. I love the conversations that we've had. Even in our pre-call, it was so good to get to know you. And I've been shuffling my cards because I love to do this when we get towards the end here. I have a deck of Christian verses, just biblical verses, and whatever's on top is what's meant for today. And so let's see what it
Woo, I'm so
says.
excited.
I have set the Lord always before me because he is my right hand and I shall not be shaken. Psalm 16:8.
Love it. Love
Love
it.
it. Love it. Yes. He is with us always. One more thing
It
before
ties
we
right
get
into
off.
that. Always in
Yes.
your heart.
Always in our heart, always with us, leading us, guiding us if we're open and let him. Um, I love to ask my guests, what is something that you like to collect?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I grew up with a mom that was a hoarder. So,
Mhm.
um,
Uh-huh.
and my dad was a minimalist. So
Oh wow. Oh,
it
what
was
a
a
drastic. Yeah.
very change. My dad was of the opinion that you need three rough tote containers for your
And
whole life.
that's, yeah,
Um, and my mom had, when she passed away, she had, I think, like 18 to 22 tweezers that she
yeah.
had because she kept buying
Because
more.
she had to keep buying one. Yeah.
If I had to say that I collect, oh, that's an interesting, it just popped in. I collect stories. Stories.
Oh, I love
That's what
that.
I collect. I
That
love
is so
big
good.
stories
Yeah.
because I think that stories have the power to change people without having to say to the person, you need to change.
Oh, most definitely. And I think that's why this podcast is what it is, because I want these stories to resonate with that one, and they don't have to be being told face to face. They get to hear it in their ears and receive it. So that's what this is about. So,
I
Heather,
love that.
thank
That
you
was
for
a great
coming.
question. I've never had that question before.
Oh, I've been asked so many times, and I'm like, well, I think I'm gonna start using that on the end just to see what people. And I've had a lot lately saying memories because 2020 changed us all. I
Yes.
don't. We all go back to that. It changed us all. That was one incident that impacted everybody, not
Yep.
just a few. So a lot have really gone into creating more memories and collecting them because we live in such a crazy, hectic life.
Yes.
But anyway,
Yes. I
yes.
love that. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Well, I thank you for joining me today on my podcast. And I
Thank you
look
so
forward to
much for having
continue
me.
friendship with you. I
Yes,
just love where you're going.
I love what you're doing. I so appreciate that you're showing up and you're also helping other women and men to show up too on their podcasts. I love that about you. I just it's so important for us to speak and share our wisdom and you know, I hesitate to say it, but we are the generation now that is starting to share wisdom.
Yeah, I know. Shh, don't say it loud because everybody
I
thinks I'm 30.
I know I've had to own it. And
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
you
I own
know,
it. I love it because in this era and season of my life, God is doing such great things. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take this because the
absolutely.
absolute, even like I said, in our very hard, I still have so much to smile and be accepted and excited about. So, yes, ma'am,
Thank
I'll
you
own
so
it.
much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining my podcast today. We all have a story to share. Each story has purpose and makes an impact to you, the listener, creating a journey with passion and purpose. The journey we're taking is the journey within you. Please share with others and subscribe below.